really love it when a new microbrand comes onto the scene and invests presumably tons of cash and time into the designs and prototypes of a brand new watch. Living in Great Britain, I get especially excited when that new entry into market is from Great Britain themselves. So when the commander from newly formed Microbrand Sherwood arrived on my doorstep, I couldn't wait to get it in front of the camera. Today, we're taking a very close look at that British designed commander. And stick around as I take the commander to where else but Sherwood Forest in Nottinghamshire in my usual walk around at the end of my vid, which is a stone's throw away from where the Microbrand owner lives, and a place that heavily influenced the design and creation of this watch. As ever, it's great to have you here. But before we do anything else, here's the watch's spec in 90 seconds. So this is the commander from Microbrand Sherwood, and I've got to say, when I took it out the box, I immediately thought, wow, this is gonna be fun. Brand-wise, the name Sherwood is heavily influenced by Sherwood Forest, which, as mentioned, is near to where the Microbrand owner lives, and this first design is called the Commander as a nod to James Bond. So two main influences incorporated into the brand and overall design of the watch, and the ultimate aim of Sherwood was to create a watch that was an extremely versatile dress diver. So the Commander therefore needed to be both stylish enough to be worn with a tux at a Monte Carlo casino, but also tough enough and durable enough to be hypothetically worn by Robin Hood himself, whilst he and his band of outlaws, the Merry Men, fought off the evil Sheriff of Nottingham. As mentioned in my 90-second spec, its case is stainless steel 316L, highly polished, 40mm in diameter, which actually quite surprised me when I read the spec, because on the wrist it feels like it wore a little larger on my 7.5-inch wrists, mainly because we've got a fairly slim 120 click bezel here, who Sherwood say they really worked hard with the manufacturer to reduce that ceramic bezel down to 3mm in width, and that bezel surrounds a nicely angled chapter ring that leads into a lovely spacious dial. It comes in at a very compact 12.5mm thick, made possible by its Miyota 9039 movement. It's 48mm from lug to lug, 20mm at the lug, that tapers down to 18mm and back up to 21mm at a nice but rather bulky clasp. It's also worth mentioning that it has an unguarded screw down crown, 6mm in diameter, and features a shield logo, and the Commander is water resistant to a depth of 200 meters. Now the first thing that I wowed at initially was the dial. So this is the Sunburst Blue dial, but black and green will both be available when it's launched on Kickstarter on the 12th of February 2023. Now whilst my personal preference would probably go for this blue, the green is probably an obvious choice for most given that Sherwood Forest influence. But that deep sunburst blue is really striking, and the white applied indices really pop out behind that sunburst effect. Speaking of which, we have a design with no numerals, instead with circles and rectangles here at 3, 6 and 9 o'clock, and that very stylish shield again here at 12 o'clock. Now the main Sherwood logo is fairly large, starting under the 11 o'clock hour marker and stretches right across to that 1 o'clock hour marker, but nicely aligned, and I must say that spacious style really allows for that logo to stand fairly prominent without it cluttering the upper part of that dial. Subliminally too, I think that W at the centre of the logo actually complements the shape of the shield above it. The hour and minute hands are sword hands, white in the middle with high polish on the perimeter, but for me it's a second hands that really stands out and is arguably the star of the show. It's an arrow that features a blue tip and the rest of which is high polished, including the fletching. It's also great, as a Brit myself, to see the words British design on either side of that 6 o'clock baton. The Lume is really decent too, tons of Superluminova BGW9 used on the blue and black versions of the Commander with the use of C3 on the green dial version. Now that all sits under a double dome sapphire crystal with anti-reflective treatment. Now going back to that bezel, and I must say it's super smart, a lot of thought was clearly put into this. Firstly, it has no numbers, which plays a huge part in this watch looking and feeling very decluttered. Instead of a traditional Lume pip at the 12 o'clock position, Sherwood actually have a 20-minute section that defaults in the centre at 12 o'clock for symmetry, which was presumably designed to give this watch good balance, a very symmetrical aesthetic, and also a nod to the main limb of Robin Hood's bow. And if you need to time anything, you can obviously move it to the start of the 20-minute section. The screw down caseback features major oak, which is a large 1,000-year-old oak tree found in Sherwood Forest, and according to folklore, it was Robin Hood's shelter where he and his merry men slept. The bracelet is personally one I rather like. It has 5 links, high polished in the central 3 links and brushed at the ends. Now, this prototype model has pin and collar links, but the final production will feature screw links, which, if anyone is like me and has had my history with pin and collar, the move to screw links is a cause for celebration in itself. Now, Sherwood would say that there will be softer edges of the bracelet links too, current design being a little sharp for their liking. Now for me, it's one of the very best watches that I've had the privilege to have had sent to me and stick in front of my camera. The very second I opened the package and laid eyes on it, and every single second I've worn it since, has been a great experience. Now full price of the Commander on their website will be £450 UK. That's around about $545, but when launched on Kickstarter on the 12th of February, that super early bird price will be set at £325 UK. That's around about $395 but will be limited to 15 of each colour at that rate. That Kickstarter early bird rate will then be £350, approximately $422, and limited to 30 of each colour, and the Kickstarter special thereafter will be priced at £375 or $450. Obviously, all of those US dollar rates are approximate as of the 12th of February 2023. Now, my love for microbrands is no secret, so to have in my hands a British influenced, British designed watch from a newly formed British microbrand, fantastically designed, well spec'd, and heavily influenced by 2 very legendary British icons, well, what can I say? It's been an absolute dream for me. Well, good morning there, Sherwood Commander.